Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab. Today I feel African. Today I feel gay.
What is he talking about?
Today I feel disabled. Today I feel a migrant worker.
Some people, honestly, they're so tone deaf.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I thought this was a meme. I saw the comments going around. I saw people's kind of reaction to the words of the FIFA president, and just thought to myself, this is Alan Partridge. This has to be a publicity stunt. This cannot be real. I feel Qatari. I feel Arab. I feel African. I feel gay. I feel disabled. Listen, bro. There's empathy, and then there's bullshit. And you do not know what it feels like to be a person from those groups. And I'm suggesting that he's picking those groups due to his discrimination. So it's an assumption, but it's a pretty obvious one, in my opinion. This man has no idea how those individuals feel, in my humble opinion, unless he hasn't come out as gay, unless he has a disability that we don't know about. He does not know what it's like. Tone deaf, ridiculous, like laughable. When I first heard it, you saw me there on camera. I laughed. I laughed because I could not believe my ears. What did I just hear from the FIFA president? My gosh, tone deaf. Absolutely tone deaf. I know what you're trying to say, but that was an absolute abomination, a car crash, and a disgrace. Here's some more from this man.
From some Europeans, from the Western world. I'm European. Actually, I am European.
Thanks for clarifying.
Not just I feel European. I think for what we Europeans have been doing in the last 3,000 years around the world, we should be apologizing for the next 3,000 years before starting to give moral lessons to people.
Right. So let's just slow this down for a quick second. I know what it's all about. It's defending the World Cup being in Qatar. So the first thing to do is give you my stance on the World Cup being in Qatar. I get the view that it's virtue signaling from countries who have committed atrocities recently, decades ago, centuries ago, to criticize the behavior of the Qatari government, royal family, I believe they have. I kind of get, Tony Blair talking about human rights issues. It's hugely hypocritical because of an illegal war that he waged on Iraq. I get it, right? I understand. Countries that have invaded multiple parts of the world, that have enslaved the world. I get leaders of those countries saying it's a disgrace that Qatar have got this issue because of human rights issues. When there are still human rights issues in the UK, there's still human rights issues in America, there's still human rights issues in G8 countries around the world. So I get when the leaders of those countries state that it shouldn't be in Qatar, 100%, you're right, it's hypocritical. Equally, when ex-footballers and presenters and YouTubers virtue signal day in, day out, week in, week out about the behavior of Qatar, the migrant workers and the terrible, what they were subjective to, the terrible, inhumane working rights they were subjected to help build the city, the stadia, etc. I get when these celebrities virtue signal about how the world should be run, but then go and take money from these very businesses, from these very nations, from these very people. You can point the finger and say that is hypocritical. I think it's also hypocritical for the TV broadcasters who are sending teams out there. You're giving money to them. You're buying villas, apartments. You're spending money there. to cover the World Cup, and then you're going to go, it's disgrace, it's there, though. You don't need to go. You're choosing to go to make money. All of that I agree with, but not the average person. Now, you may know an individual and anecdotally go, well, you're a hypocrite because of these 5 things that you support and you're moaning about another group, right? That makes sense. People can moan, though, and people have to challenge and people can complain and people should do that. I choose not to. And the reason I choose not to is because my business, the Football Terrace, will be covering the World Cup. We will not be boycotting. Therefore, it would be hypocritical for me to sit there and say, it's a disgrace the World Cup's going ahead. That's how I feel about it. I felt the same, a very completely different situation on a human rights level, but it's the same with the Super League. I didn't overtly oppose it because there's no way I weren't going to be covering it as a football content creator. Therefore, I'm a hypocrite to moan about it and then make money off it. That's my stance. But if you're someone who isn't in my space, you're just a general average working class person in the UK, in America, in France, in Nigeria, in Australia, in China, wherever it may be, it doesn't even matter where you are, and you don't like the idea of it being there based on what's going on in that country, that's fair enough. Because I'm not accountable for what my government does. I'm not no American general working normal person is accountable for what their government does. Most of the people, I'm assuming this, and if I'm wrong, correct me, educate me, please. A lot of the day-to-day people in Qatar don't control how things are run. It's never the people's fault. It's the people that are running things. But everybody conflates it. Everybody conflates this nonsense. And the conflation is like, well, Terry, you can't say anything because your country did X 10, 50, 100, 500 years ago. Bruv, I didn't do nothing. I'm sovereign within myself. I'm not accountable what any one person did before me, whether we share a passport or not. And that's for me the conversation that's frustrated me about this. And hearing this man, hearing him come out, I'm not even saying the guy's name. I'm never going to say it. Hearing him come out, I know what it's like to be disabled. I feel African. I feel like a migrant worker. Firstly, no, you don't. Secondly, stop telling the general populace of Europe and the world that they're not allowed to criticize. Do you know why? Because we criticize you as well. We criticize all things that we see as wrong. Where he has a point, and this is to you virtue signalers, if you're someone that's moaning about it, don't watch it. If you're a journalist and you're angry about it, I hope you're not there covering it. That's where you've got to call out the hypocrisy. I see people all the time on socials moan about the Middle East. Then I see him on holiday there. How is that plausible? How does that work? We are conflating issues. There are certainly goings on in Qatar with workers, in terms of the treatment of homosexuality, to name 2 things. I'm sure there may be others. They're the 2 that really get publicized that do not fit my personal moral compass. They do not. At the same time, there are things in my country that don't serve my personal moral compass. And I will complain about both. Where I draw the line is if I'm going to be making money out of that organization, making money out of that event, and then moaning about it at the same time, that I do not participate in that kind of hypocrisy. It's why I give very few political views online. I'm not even giving a political view now. I'm just calling it hypocrisy. Let the general person complain and try and do everything they can through massive numbers to raise standards all around the world, to improve things for all people all around the world. But will these celebrities, will these people in privilege and power, will these businesses stop the moral virtue bullshit for one goddamn minute and actually either address the issues or just crack on with it? It's becoming boring. The same as all the journalists coming out now on the eve of the tournament and moaning. A handful have been doing it all along. But where was this noise 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? Quiet, dead, nowhere to be heard. You're doing it now because you know it isn't going to be cancelled, but you get to look good. Stop. Oppose it properly by putting out one big article, and then I don't want to see you covering it. Rest of the World Cup, be silent, brother. Be silent on it. Unless you're talking about the issues. I don't want to hear you, oh, this game was great and that was great. Oh, this restaurant I went to was brilliant. I don't want to hear none of that nonsense. I don't want a vlog from you. Just drop the hypocrisy. It's becoming boring. And most of the general public are becoming bored of it. They're becoming bored of it. They really, really are. Smash the like and the share button, people. See you all again soon. Thank you.